Welcome back to the channel, guys. In this video, we're going to talk about what you should do with your money when you get paid. Now, a lot of people, when they get paid, they might buy something they've wanted. Maybe it's something on Amazon. Maybe it's a pair of golf clubs, a pair of skis. They kind of wait till they get paid to buy these things because they think in their heads it makes more sense that way because they just got paid, they have more money. Let's buy more things. This doesn't include just things like I named, like golf clubs and skis. This could mean other different fun things like going out to dinner, maybe drinks, appetizers, etc., etc., etc. How many times have you heard someone say, "Food's on me, I got paid today," or "I got the first round, today was payday"? This is known as the Paycheck Effect, which is pretty simple, and it basically states that consumers spend more when they get paid because they have more money. And it also makes me think, when I see 40% of people struggle to afford at least one basic need, that a lot of people are impacted by this paycheck effect. And this doesn't just apply to people with low incomes. This applies to people who also make a significant amount of money. A lot of people who are making over six figures struggle with this problem as well. Now, obviously the name of this channel is called Millennial Finance, so it mainly pertains to millennials. And you might be watching this and you might be in your early 20s or mid 20s, and maybe you just finished school and you've never really had a decent wage or salary. You might have always been working minimum wage jobs or internships or jobs that really don't pay a lot just because you were trying to just work something to have some sort of income, just to, spending money and stuff like that. Now that you're moving on to the next stage of your life, maybe you just got your first real job, you have your first substantial, sustainable salary that you can really live off of, but you still don't have a ton of expenses because this is all new to you. So basically you have more money than you've ever had. Now that you see the money continue to come into your checking account every week, and you just see it building up and up and up and up, you think it's okay to spend more and more and more because you have more and more and more. And to a certain degree, that's okay, but at the same time, it's really going to bite you.
Lifestyle inflation, take over.
The sooner you're able to implement these steps, or some of these steps that we're about to talk about, the better off you're going to be. Think of it back when you were in middle school, and there was that teacher that always said, the kids that are struggling now are going to be better off in the future because they already have the work habits down. Well, it's the same thing here. If you get these budgeting habits and these financial habits down now, when you don't have as many expenses, when you move on to the next stage in your life and you have more responsibilities and more expenses, it's just going to work out better for you because you already have the habits down. Anyway, I think the first step you take when you get paid is to invest on some sort of retirement account. This can include a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA, or a 401k. Or you could even put that money in an online savings account and build up an emergency fund if you don't have one of those built up yet. As I talked about in the last video, aim to put 25 to 30% of your income in there, but say you can only afford to put in 5% of the time, then just go ahead and do that. Even if you can only put in 1 to 2% at a time to start, go and do that. The point is to get yourself in the habit of treating that income like a tax, or that specific money like a tax, and just comes right off the top and you never see it. Now, you might be watching this saying, how is this even possible? I have all this debt, I have all these expenses. It's just not possible for me to put anything into a retirement account. And the first thing I would recommend doing is stop having that mindset, because that's not going to get you anywhere. And the point of paying yourself first is to get you in the habit of paying yourself and rewarding yourself with finances that will set you up for the future. I'm sure everyone watching this video has a job or some sort of income they work hard for. So why not take some of that income that you worked for yourself, that you put your time into, that you put your effort into, that you earned, and pay some of it to yourself rather than paying all these other people. Look at your expenses. There's got to be some way you can cut back. Maybe it's finding a cheaper apartment, looking for a roommate, renting out a room. It could also be something like shopping at Walmart instead of Dave's. Even if it's just $10 or $20 a paycheck, the point is to get you in the habit of starting to pay yourself first, and then you can build off of that. The second thing I think you should do when you get paid is to buy the things you're going to need to survive, or your necessities. So this is going to include food from the grocery store, your rent or your mortgage, putting gas in your car, healthcare, your utilities, stuff like that. And even with going to the grocery store, I think it might be a good idea to come up with a plan. A lot of people go to the grocery store hungry, so everything just looks delicious and appetizing, and it's just the best thing you could ever buy on the planet. Or they don't come in with a list, so they just grab all these random items. If you come in with a list and you don't come in starving, and you come up with a plan, it's going to be easier to just get what you want and get what you really need and get out, and it'll be the best bang for your buck most likely. Anyway, a lot of these things people can't afford or they can't always buy, and I think it stems a lot from the spontaneous purchases. Once they get paid, they might get paid and they buy all these different things, and all of a sudden they look at the checking account and it's dried up, and then they're like, well, how are we going to eat this week? So, solution, before you make spontaneous purchases, and you really shouldn't make spontaneous purchases, as I talked about in another video on what you shouldn't spend money on, make sure you buy your necessities that you're going to need to survive. The third thing you should do is pay off any debt you have. And as I talked about in my How to Get Out of Debt video, you can do this in a couple different ways. There's the avalanche and the snowball method. Basically, one's paying down the highest interest rate first, while the other one's paying down the lowest balance first. As I talked about in that video, I think just paying down the highest interest rate debt first makes more sense mathematically and financially, and I think it's going to save you more money in the long run. But if you're someone who really struggles to pay bills and really needs to see that progress, then go ahead and pay down the lowest balance first. And any high interest rate debt is most likely going to be bad debt, like credit card debt. So it's going to be really important that you get out of that as soon as you possibly can. Carrying debt like this is honestly just going to make you more dependent, because you're going to say, I need this job. I need to nail this interview because I need to have this job. I need to do good on this project because I need to keep this job, because you need to pay the bills. As opposed to if you aren't in debt or aren't in any bad debt, you might be able to get by a little more easier and you might have a little more pull. The fourth step when you get paid, and this kind of reverts a little bit back to the first one we talked about, is to invest. But not so much retirement. This might be a brokerage where you invest in individual stocks, or you can invest in things like bonds, mutual funds, or real estate. These are a little more complicated. They might not be for everyone, but they are important and they're really good to have in your portfolio. And they're really important because they're just going to continue to have your money work for you, and it's just going to allow you to build your wealth more. As I said in a previous video, if you went back or not went back, but if you just asked someone what their biggest regret was, who's a little bit older, on their biggest mistake when they were younger and what they wish they did, I would say one of the most common things that they're going to say is they wish they started investing earlier, they wish they invested more, and they wish they saved more. Don't make the mistake of not investing, not taking advantage of compound interest, and thinking it's not important, because it is. The last step when you get paid, and really I think this should be the last step after you've done the first four, is to budget in some money for fun and entertainment. Notice how I said some money, not all money. This can be one where the floodgates really start to open, and it can be really hard to just not continue to funnel money out. So I have a couple different strategies for when it starts raining, it doesn't start pouring, if you get what I mean. The first strategy, and this is the one I would do, is to open two different checking accounts, one for necessities and one for fun, basically. And this is going to allow you to stay organized, and you're not going to get confused about how much money you have for this and how much money you have for that, which you really can when you're working out of one account, because it is complicated unless you have it all tracked down and worked into a science. But that's a lot of work. So I would say just open two different checking accounts. And like I said, you're just going to stay organized, and it's going to be easier for you to manage. This other strategy, which I'm not a fan of, and it's a very simple reason as to why I don't see anything drastically wrong with it, is basically go to the bank physically and take out, say you want to take $100 for fun expenses for that week. Take out $100 and put it in an envelope, and that's the money you spend on fun expenses. So going out to dinner, going out for drinks, that's the money you have. And when that cash runs out, you're done. And the reason I don't like this is because, as I've said in previous videos, I just don't see any reason why I wouldn't pay with a credit card and just get that cash back or get the travel points or whatever. But if that doesn't matter to you and you really don't care about that, then just go ahead and you can do this. And it might be easier because you'll just see when that money is gone, you're done, and you'll see how much you have left. And maybe it's just a visual thing for some people, and maybe by doing that, it'll all work out and it'll just kind of start to click. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you start to implement some of these steps when you get paid. Let me know which ones are your favorite and maybe something that I should have added. I'll see you in the next one.